Does anyone not remember 1974's classic movie adaptation of Where the Red Fern Grows? It's hard for me to imagine that there are too many folks out there who haven't seen this movie, or read the book at least once. My first exposure to the author of this book, Wilson Rawls, was when I was 8 or 9 years old. We had an elderly neighbor who I would help with garbage cans each week. The old man said that I needed to learn a little bit about service, and this was a good way, he thought, that I could learn to give of myself a little bit. One thing he insisted was that Mrs. Miller not pay me anything. He wanted it to be a complete act of service, and truthfully, I was okay with that. It felt good to help her and visit with her a little each week. One week, right near my birthday, she presented me with an autographed copy of a book by Wilson Rawls titled Summer of the Monkeys. I should have been more excited, but I wasn't. You see, this is the kind of book that would have gotten me really excited, but of course, I don't think Mrs. Miller would have had any idea where to even find such a thing. So I did my best to act excited about Summer of the Monkeys, and I promised her that I would read it, which, by the way, I did not, at least right away. Still, the world seemed dead set on me getting some Wilson Rawls, because one day, way back when I was in the 4th grade, my teacher decided to read us one of her favorite books. It was, of course, Where the Red Fern Grows, and I've got to admit, this sweet story of young Billy Coleman and his 2 dogs, set against the backdrop of the Ozark Mountains, hit me pretty hard. Even for a kid who insisted on reading only books that had characters who wore capes and utility belts, well, I had to admit this book was truly something special. It wasn't long after that the movie came out. I saw it with my whole family at the Queen Theater in Bountiful, Utah. It was one of the few times that I've ever seen my mother cry at a movie. But there she was as the film concluded, wiping tears away and talking about what a dumb ending that was. I knew it wasn't dumb, and I knew that she didn't think it was dumb either. And thanks to our annual PTA Summer Movie Matinee series, got to watch that movie at least once a year for the next few years. Now keep in mind, folks, this was before VCRs. The only way you could watch a movie was to catch it on TV or at the theater. And I really loved those summer matinees. I think it was like $2 or $3 for about 12 movies, one a week. And there were so many good movies that I got to see. It's where I saw Grizzly Adams, Benji, and of course the big screen Batman movie with Adam West. And I know the moms in our neighborhood appreciated having us all sequestered in a single location for a couple of hours, safe and sound. The star of Where the Red Fern Grows was a kid from Wyoming named Stewart Peterson, who would go on to act in similar movies like Seven Alone and Against a Crooked Sky. And here in Utah, he was a pretty big deal because he was a member of the dominant faith, the Mormon Church. Yep, just like Donnie Marie, Mr. Peterson was quite the popular guy in my little neck of the woods during the mid to late 70s. I didn't really care much for Seven Alone, but Against a Crooked Sky, well, it was pretty dang awesome. Definitely a movie worth catching if you ever run across it. Stewart made a couple more movies and then he just disappeared. Well, not really, because you see he turned 19 and he was off to serve a mission for the Mormon Church. For him it was the Netherlands, and then he was back to school where he actually played football for Rick's College in Rexburg, Idaho. Somewhere along the way, Stewart met the girl of his dreams and decided that the entertainment industry wasn't for him. He loved the outdoors and was able to parlay that love into a company called Magic Mountain Outfitters that he started in his hometown of Cokeville, Wyoming. Stewart raised his family there, and along with serving as a bishop in his local congregation, dabbled a teeny bit in politics as a member of the city council as well. Every once in a great while, Stewart comes out of the woodwork, usually for a convention of some sort. Here in Utah, he's participated in the local comic convention called Fan X, and at least a couple of times Stewart has been a guest of honor at the annual Red Fern Festival held in Oklahoma. More on that in a minute. While sales of the book when it was released way back in 1961 were kind of slow, to be truthful, they're really robust now with over 10 million copies in print. The movie has been remade by Disney. I don't think it's as good, but the budget was bigger and it shows up on screen. Years ago I watched that version with my mother and she didn't cry at the end. That's how I know the 1974 original is still the one to watch. Disney even got around to making a version of Rawls' other novel, Summer of the Monkeys, and yes, I did eventually read the book. Well, actually, my dad read it to me and my siblings each night as we got ready to go to sleep. It was a great book as well. I haven't seen the movie version, but I'm sure, based on the source material, it's fine. What's not fine was the unnecessary sequel. I'm not sure why we got this one. I've seen it once and I won't be watching it again. The premise is that Billy Coleman comes home from World War II and he's lost a leg and he's kind of bitter. He's lost a bit of that youthful optimism that he once had. Once again, the plot involves dogs, but the story, not written by Rawls, well, it just doesn't have that magic. So I spoke about the Red Fern Festival earlier. If you're a fan of the book, well, maybe you should plan on visiting Tahlequah, Oklahoma. It always takes place during the last weekend in April. And yes, don't worry, there will be a screening of the classic 1974 movie. So that's it. Let's close with this statue of Billy and his beloved dogs, Little Ann and Old Dan. You can find this outside the Idaho Falls Public Library. I think it's pretty cool. So what do you think? Were you a fan of Where the Red Fern Grows? If so, which one? The book? The 1974 movie? Or both? Share your memories in the comments section, and while you're at it, I'd love a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and I would be absolutely honored if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you for watching.